Welcome back to Stoic Wisdom Channel. Hey warriors, the need to be understood is the root of most frustration. Because the moment you need understanding, you give others control over your peace. Most people spend their lives explaining intentions, explaining choices, explaining silence. Not because they want clarity, but because they want approval. And approval is a fragile foundation. You feel it, don't you? That persistent, low hum beneath the surface of your days, a vibration of unease that thrums in the spaces between breaths, in the hollow moments after the notifications cease, in the quiet dread that settles when the world demands sleep and your mind refuses. It's the echo of 1,000 invisible pressures, the weight of expectations you never consciously agreed to, the phantom ache of potential unfulfilled, or perhaps potential misunderstood. You navigate a landscape sculpted by constant comparison, where curated lives flicker past on screens like mirages in a desert, promising solace, promising belonging, promising enough, only to leave you thirstier than before. We strive, we push, we build these intricate facades, polishing them daily under the glare of an unseen audience, hoping for what approval validation, a simple nod that says, "Yes, I see you. I see your effort. I see your worth." We pour our energy into the desperate act of translation, trying to make the intricate, often messy, reality of our inner world legible to others, convinced that their comprehension is the key, the missing piece that will finally unlock a sense of peace, a sense of belonging, a sense of solid ground beneath our feet. We tell ourselves the story that if only they truly got it, if only the signal could cut through the noise, if only the intricate algorithms of human perception aligned perfectly with the complex code of our own being, then maybe the anxiety would soften, the pressure would ease, the gnawing emptiness might finally be filled. We are performers on a vast, indifferent stage, improvising our lines, hoping the critique will be gentle, hoping the review will be favorable, hoping the applause might, just for a moment, drown out the doubt whispering from the wings. But consider this, for a moment, adrift in the deep quiet of this late hour. What if the relentless pursuit of external understanding is the very source of the turbulence? What if the energy spent broadcasting your signal, calibrating your message, pleading for recognition, is energy desperately needed elsewhere? Within what if the profound act of liberation doesn't lie in convincing the world of your truth, but in the quiet, radical acceptance that their understanding is ultimately beyond your control, and perhaps beyond your need? What if the deepest validation, the most unshakable peace, arises not from the echo of their acknowledgement, but from the resonance of your own integrity? What if the answer isn't louder broadcasts, but a more profound inner listening? What if the most powerful realization dawns in the silent understanding that you don't need to be understood? This isn't a dismissal of connection or a call to isolation. It's a redirection, a turning of the gaze inward, away from the flickering screens and the clamoring crowds, towards the quiet, steady light of your own rational soul, the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty the ancients spoke of. Think of your mind like a vast, complex operating system, constantly bombarded by external data streams, emails, social feeds, news alerts, the subtle judgments inferred from a glance, the weight of unspoken opinions. The pressure arises when we try to manage the entire network, attempting to control the input, fearing every potential system error, desperately seeking positive feedback loops from users whose own systems are just as besieged. We become architects of our own digital overwhelm, mistaking the noise for the signal, the ephemeral trends for enduring truths. The Stoics, those ancient navigators of the human condition, understood this frantic externalization. They saw humanity caught in a similar net, though the threads were woven from different materials. The pronouncements of emperors, the gossip of the forum, the shifting tides of public favor. Zeno, standing beneath the painted porch, the Stoa Poikile, didn't offer cheap comforts or easy answers. He pointed towards reason, towards nature, towards the understanding that the universe operates according to a rational principle, a logos. Our task, he suggested, isn't to bend the world to our will, an impossible feat, but to align ourselves with that underlying order, to live in accordance with reason, which is our own nature. And what is our nature? Stripped bare of the societal programming, the anxieties we've inherited, the desires manufactured by endless consumption at its core. It is the capacity for reason, for choice, for virtue. Epictetus, himself once enslaved, laid bare the fundamental truth: some things are within our control, and some are not. Our judgments, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, these are internal, the realm of our volition. Everything else, our body, our reputation, our possessions, the opinions of others, the grand sweep of world events, these are external, subject to fortune, to chance, to the complex web of cause and effect that extends far beyond our individual influence. The suffering, the anxiety, the crushing pressure, they bloom not from the external events themselves, but from our judgment about them. We are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in the quiet solitude of his campaigns, his meditations a private journal of this inward turn. Consider the modern marketplace of comparison. You scroll through images of success, the perfect vacation, the seamless career trajectory, the flawless relationship. Your mind instantly calculates the deficit, the lack, the not enough. You feel the sting of inadequacy. But pause. Whose metric are you using? Is it truly yours, or is it a borrowed metric, gleaned from the curated highlight reels of others, designed to sell you something, a product, an image, a feeling? The Stoic asks, what is the virtue at play here? Is envy serving your character? Is comparison strengthening your resolve? Or is it merely fueling the illusion that happiness lies in external acquisition, in achieving a certain status, in being perceived in a certain way? This illusion is a powerful opiate, dulling the awareness of the true source of fulfillment, the cultivation of your own inner citadel. You try to manage your online persona like a meticulous stock portfolio, constantly monitoring engagement, adjusting content for maximum visibility, agonizing over the dip in likes. You crave the dopamine hit of validation, mistaking fleeting digital affirmation for genuine self-worth. This is the illusion of control applied to the uncontrollable realm of others' perceptions. You cannot force people to understand you, to like you, to approve of you. You can only control your own actions, your own intentions, your own responses. When you anchor your sense of self to the unpredictable tides of external opinion, you are building your house on shifting sands. The storms of criticism, indifference, or misunderstanding are inevitable. When they hit, the structure collapses, and you are left adrift. And that persistent craving for applause, for recognition, isn't it often just the ego, disguised as a noble desire for significance? It whispers insidious suggestions. If they only knew how hard you work, if they could see the sacrifices you make, if they truly understood your brilliance. It seeks to build a monument to your perceived importance in the minds of others. But pause, breathe. Is this quest for external validation truly serving your growth, your virtue? Or is it a subtle form of self-imprisonment, chaining your peace to the whims of the crowd? Perhaps the greatest strength lies not in demanding their understanding, but in the quiet confidence of knowing your own worth, independent of their gaze. Perhaps the most profound freedom is realizing that your value isn't up for their debate. This leads us to the nature of desire and aversion, the twin engines that so often drive our anxiety. We desire things we don't have: the promotion, the recognition, the idealized partner, the perfect calm. We avert things we fear: failure, criticism, loneliness, the chaos of the world. The Stoic path doesn't advocate for apathy, for a lack of desire or feeling. It advocates for correct desire and aversion. Desire what is truly good: virtue, wisdom, justice, courage. Avert what is truly bad: vice, injustice, ignorance, cowardice. The problem arises when we invert this, desiring the ephemeral and externals, wealth, fame, the approval of others, and averting the inevitable challenges and discomforts that are part of the human experience. Imagine your life as a vast, complex code base. You are the lead developer. You can meticulously craft your functions, write elegant algorithms for your own behavior, debug your own biases, optimize your own responses. That is your domain. But you cannot rewrite the source code of everyone else. You cannot debug their biases or force their functions to align with yours. Trying to do so is a recipe for system crashes, endless frustration, and burnout. The peace comes when you focus your development efforts entirely on your own module, writing the cleanest, most virtuous code you can, accepting that the interactions with other modules will sometimes be buggy, unpredictable, or simply incompatible. You maintain your own system. You don't hijack others. Seneca, writing from his villa, often spoke of preparing for adversity, of mentally rehearsing misfortunes, not morbidly, but practically, like a sailor checking the rigging before a storm. Not because they wish for the storm, but because they wish to navigate it successfully should it arrive. He understood that the sting of disappointment, the shock of loss, the pain of betrayal, are amplified exponentially when we approach them with the naive assumption that they shouldn't happen, that the world owes us perpetual ease. We are caught off guard, wounded not just by the event, but by our own resistance to its reality. So, we practice. We practice seeing events not as inherently good or bad, but simply as events. The job loss isn't a catastrophe, it's a change in circumstance. How you respond to that change, the virtues you employ, resilience, resourcefulness, perhaps even gratitude for the opportunity to learn. That is where your power lies. The harsh criticism isn't a verdict on your soul. It's an opinion, perhaps ill-informed, perhaps biased, offered by another human navigating their own struggles. Your reaction to it, anger, defensiveness, despair, is where the real work lies. Can you receive it? Filter it through the lens of reason. Discard the dross, and perhaps glean a kernel of truth without sacrificing your inner equilibrium. This is the practice. It is not about achieving a state of unflappable perfection overnight. It is a continuous, daily, moment-by-moment reorientation of the mind. We chase certainty in a universe defined by flux, demanding permanence from a life that breathes change with every heartbeat. We build our hopes on foundations of what if and if only, clinging desperately to the illusion of control over the uncontrollable. We are like swimmers fighting the current, exhausting ourselves against the very force that could, if understood and respected, carry us along. The paradox is stark surrender, the illusion of absolute control over externals, and you gain true mastery over your inner world. The silence isn't emptiness, it's the space where true strength resides. This inward turn is not about shrinking your world, but deepening it. It's about recognizing that the vast universe you seek to conquer, or even just to be understood by, resides ultimately within the small space between your own ears. Your judgments, your values, your character. This is your true domain. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, facing plague, war, and betrayal, continually reminded himself, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, not appear to be one, not be understood as one, just be one. Live according to your principles. Act with justice, temperance, courage, and wisdom, regardless of the outcome or the audience. Think of the digital world again. We are constantly tempted to outsource our thinking, to let algorithms curate our reality, to accept prepackaged opinions. We skim headlines, react impulsively, share memes without deep consideration. This is cognitive laziness, an abdication of our rational faculty. Stoicism calls us back to the demanding, yet profoundly rewarding work of thinking for ourselves, to examine impressions before assenting to them, to ask, is this true? Is this necessary? Is this just? Is this beneficial to the whole community of humankind? Starting with my own rational self. These questions act as filters, preventing the noise from overwhelming the signal, protecting the integrity of your inner operating system. The path isn't about suppressing emotions, but about understanding their source. Anxiety often stems from projecting fears into the future, assuming the worst based on past experiences or imagined threats. All judgments. Anger frequently arises from a perceived injustice, a violation of our expectations, again, a judgment. Grief can be the natural response to loss, but it can morph into suffering when compounded by the judgment that this should not be. By examining these judgments, by questioning the narratives we tell ourselves, we gain the space to respond rather than merely react. We learn to navigate the emotional currents with a steady rudder, guided by reason, not tossed about by every wave. We live in an age saturated with the pursuit of happiness, often defined as the accumulation of pleasant experiences and the avoidance of unpleasant ones. This is a fragile foundation. True contentment, the Stoic eudaimonia, isn't a fleeting feeling state dependent on external conditions. It is the deep, abiding satisfaction that comes from living a life of virtue, of purpose, of alignment with reason. It's the peace that arises from knowing you are acting rightly, fulfilling your function as a rational, social being, regardless of whether the world acknowledges it, rewards it, or even understands it. It's the quiet strength of the craftsman absorbed in their work, not for the applause, but for the integrity of the craft itself. This relentless pressure to perform, to project an image, to be understood. Does it perhaps mask a deeper fear? A fear that without the external validation, there's simply nothing there. A fear that our core self is somehow lacking, incomplete. Could it be that the need for their witness is a way of avoiding the radical responsibility of self-knowledge? What if the most profound truth you seek isn't out there in their opinions, but waiting, quiet and patient, within the unexplored territory of your own being? The journey, then, is not about adding more external achievements, more accolades, more connections in the hope they will finally see you. It's about excavation. It's about clearing away the debris of false desires, mistaken judgments, and the exhausting need for external approval. It's about uncovering the bedrock of your own rational nature. It's about tending to your inner garden, cultivating the virtues, letting them grow strong and deep. Independent of the weather outside, you don't need the world to endorse your existence. You don't need their applause to validate your worth. You don't need their perfect understanding to find your peace. The work is here, always here, within. In the choices you make right now, in the breath you are taking right now, in the judgment you are forming right now. Focus on that. Align with reason. Act with virtue. Accept what you cannot change. The noise will continue. The pressures will ebb and flow. The comparisons will flicker at the edges of your vision. But you can build a quiet space within, a sanctuary of reason, an inner citadel that remains unshaken. It requires practice. It requires discipline. It requires courage. But it is attainable, not through the validation of the crowd, but through the quiet, unwavering fidelity to your own rational, virtuous self. Peace isn't found in being understood. It is found in understanding yourself and letting go of the need for anything else. Goodbye and see you in the next video.